Boogieman, United States. In 1928, a 58-year-old man named Albert Fish was living quietly in New York. He appeared polite, elderly, and harmless. Behind that image, he carried a long history of violent fantasies, self-harm, and disturbing obsessions. Using the false name Frank Howard, he visited the Budd family and gained their trust. He offered to take 10-year-old Grace Budd to a birthday party. She left with him and never returned. Fish left the area and moved between boarding houses under different names. For 6 years, the case remained unsolved. In 1934, Fish sent a letter to Grace's mother. In it, he calmly described how he choked Grace in an abandoned house. He claimed he butchered her body and ate parts of it over several days. The letter was written in a disturbingly polite and detailed tone, as if he felt no guilt. He quoted, "Grace sat in my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her." Investigators traced the letter to a boarding house, which led to his arrest. Fish later confessed to multiple crimes, including other acts of murder and cannibalism. In 1936, he was executed in the electric chair. The letter remains one of the most disturbing communications ever mailed to a victim's family, and Albert Fish became a living legend, described as a real-life boogeyman.
Hello Kitty doll, Hong Kong.
In March 1999, Fan Man Yi, a 23-year-old woman in Sim Sha Tsui, was abducted over a debt dispute. She had previously worked as a prostitute, but later became a karaoke hostess after giving birth to a young son. One of the men she knew, Chan Man Lok, accused her of owing him money and raised the amount beyond what she could repay. He and 2 associates, along with a 14-year-old girl known as Ah Fong, took her to an apartment. For about 1 month, she was held captive. She was repeatedly beaten with metal pipes, starved, sexually assaulted, burned with heated plastic on her feet, and forced to consume human waste. The men regularly used drugs, including methamphetamine, during the abuse. In mid-April, she died after weeks of torture. The men attempted to destroy evidence by dismembering the body, boiling the head, and discarding remains down drains. Her skull was sewn inside a large Hello Kitty mermaid doll in the apartment. The case would likely have remained hidden if not for Ah Fong, who reportedly suffered nightmares about the death of Fan Man Yi. She claimed she heard her screams every night and eventually confessed to authorities, leading police to uncover the remains. The case shocked Hong Kong and became one of the most horrifying torture murders ever recorded in history. The Hello Kitty doll transformed into a symbol of terror, turning a children's character into a murder legend. The apartment gained a dark reputation. The building was abandoned because no one dared to live there. By 2012, the entire structure was demolished and a sleek modern boutique hotel rose in its place.
Burari death, India.
In July 2018, in Burari, Delhi, police were called after a neighbour noticed an unusual break-in routine. The Bhatia family normally opened their shops early in the morning, but that day, everything remained closed. Concerned, someone went inside to check. What they found was shocking. 10 members of the Bhatia family were hanging from an iron grill in the hallway. Their eyes and mouths were covered and their hands were tied. The small stools they had stood on were found pushed away beneath them. In another room, the 80-year-old grandmother was found dead on a bed by strangulation. There were no signs of forced entry or theft. Police recovered diaries written over several years. The entries gave detailed instructions for a midnight ritual. They described tying hands, covering faces, standing together, and placing complete faith in God. The writings clearly stated that God would save them. They would not die. The rope would not harm them. At the final moment, divine intervention would occur. After the ritual, everyone would help each other down, and the family would reach spiritual salvation. The instructions were delivered through Lalit Bhatia, one of the sons, who claimed he was receiving guidance from his deceased father, who had died 10 years earlier. The family trusted him and followed the ritual exactly as written. Authorities ruled it a case of mass suicide driven by shared delusion.
Bar, Myanmar.
In 1976, on the outskirts of Yangon, near what is now Parami Road, a monk named Yular Bar ran a small monastery. At the time, the area was quiet and sparsely populated. Nearby novice monks often played football in the evenings. One day, the ball was kicked into Yular Bar's compound. A boy went inside to retrieve it. He never came back out. In the weeks that followed, more people began disappearing. Many were last seen near the monastery grounds. Suspicion grew, and authorities began watching the area closely. One evening, a young man leaving the compound was suddenly attacked from behind with a knife. He managed to escape, bleeding, and alerted officials. Police entered the monastery and searched the property. Inside, they reportedly found large pots filled with human body parts, cut up and preserved in salt or vinegar. During interrogation, Lalu claimed he was practicing black magic through a ritual known as the Pari Ta Da practice. He believed that by consuming 100 humans under sacred chants and strict astrological rules, he would gain supernatural powers, including the ability to walk through earth and fly. He said he was close to completing the ritual, but was caught before he could finish. His story later became a horrifying true urban legend passed down through generations in Myanmar.
Chop Chop, Philippines.
In May 1967, 28-year-old Lucila Lalu disappeared in Manila. She was an independent young businesswoman who owned a small soda bar and a beauty salon. She was social and reportedly involved in several intimate relationships. Days later, a garbage collector found 2 severed human legs inside a trash bin. Soon after, a head and torso were discovered in separate areas of the city. The cuts were described as precise and methodical. Reports also stated Lucila was about 1 month pregnant. Jose Luis Santiano, a neighbor who lived above her beauty salon, later went to police and confessed. He claimed Lucila came to his room undressed and threatened to cause a scandal because he was married. He said he accidentally strangled her. In his statement, he described cutting the body apart, throwing the legs away before midnight, hiding the head and torso under his bed, eating, watching a movie, taking a nap, and later transporting the remaining parts separately for disposal. But in court, he changed his story. He claimed 3 men killed her and that a 4th man held him at gunpoint, forcing him to take the blame. He said his initial confession was made out of fear. The evidence never clearly supported either version, and the case remains unresolved until today. The murder of Lucila Lalu became the original legend of the Chop Chop lady that shocked the Philippines. Unfortunately, it would not be the last.
Cursed bread, France.
In August 1951, in the French town of Pont-Saint-Esprit, an event unfolded that sent an entire community into madness. It began suddenly. Within days, residents stopped sleeping. Some collapsed into violent delirium. People ran through the streets, screaming that they were on fire. Others claimed to see snakes crawling over their bodies or monsters chasing them. One man reportedly jumped from a window, trying to escape a deadly imaginary creature. Families restrained loved ones who became uncontrollable with sharp objects. Hospitals were overwhelmed. More than 50 people were sent to psychiatric asylums, many tied to beds for their own safety. By the time it subsided, over 250 residents had fallen ill. At least 7 people were reported dead, many from harming themselves during psychotic episodes. Rumors spread that the town had eaten cursed bread. Investigators later focused on locally produced rye bread. One leading explanation was ergot poisoning, a toxic fungus, Claviceps purpurea, that grows on rye and can cause intense hallucinations similar to LSD. The condition has been known since medieval times as St. Anthony's fire.
Juana, Barraza, Mexico.
In the late 1990s, fear spread through neighborhoods in Mexico City. Elderly women living alone were being found dead inside their own apartments. The attacker approached victims calmly, posing as a nurse, a social worker, or a government employee. By appearing helpful and trustworthy, the killer was able to enter homes without raising suspicion. For years, investigators believed they were hunting a man disguised as a woman. Witnesses described a large, strong figure wearing women's clothing. In 2006, police finally made an arrest. The suspect was Juana Barraza, a former luchadora who wrestled under the ring name La Dama del Silencio, the Lady of Silence. Her physical strength allowed her to overpower elderly victims, strangling them, often using stockings, scarves, or even a stethoscope. After killing them, she stole valuables from their homes. Barraza later claimed she had been severely abused as a child. According to her statements, her mother traded her to older men in exchange for alcohol and money. Investigators believed this trauma fueled her resentment toward elderly women. She was convicted of 16 murders and sentenced to 759 years in prison.
The Elevator, China.
In late January 2016, just days before Chinese New Year, an elevator in a residential apartment building in Gaoling District, Xi'an, malfunctioned. The lift became stuck between the 10th and 11th floors. Maintenance workers arrived and shouted from above to check if anyone was inside. Hearing no response, they cut the power and left without opening the cabin to physically inspect it. Because the elevator was suspended between floors, any sound from inside would have been heavily muffled by concrete and steel. The building building had another working elevator, so residents continued their routines. The broken lift was simply taken out of service during the long holiday period. For more than 30 days, it remained sealed. On March 1st, when workers returned to repair it, they opened the cabin and found the body of a 43-year-old woman inside. She had been trapped in complete darkness for over a month. As days passed without food or water, dehydration would have weakened her body. The voice fades, shouting becomes impossible. Eventually, strength collapses. Authorities ruled the death accidental, caused by negligence. Alright folks, now I want to hear from you. Which story creeped you out the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you know a true urban legend from your country that's even more disturbing, drop it below. I'm always looking for the next story.